Good evening and welcome to GUST's live studio debate between this year's SRC Sabbatical candidates. I'm Conor McNeil and tonight I'll be joined by the candidates running for the positions of Vice President of Education, Vice President of Student Activities, Vice President of Student Support and SRC President. First off this evening, let us welcome the two candidates running for the position of Vice President of Education. Welcome Salim Al-Wasiti and Kate Powell. So welcome Salim and welcome Kate. So just to ask you some general question about the role first of all. So it's a role you're both going for. Why do you think it's important and why does it appeal to you?
Are you asking me first? Okay, so the role of education, of Vice President Education, is extremely important, mainly because we sit on, the person who is Vice President Education, sits on a number of high-level academic committees, such as Learning and Teaching, such as Academic Standards Committee. They also sit on a number of project development boards, which are going to be for the new campus. And it's really extremely important that we understand what students want and how to push these issues. And the Vice President also line manages representatives, so they have to be able to support and advise them on how to conduct class rep meetings, and get the best out of their time on the SRC. I also think that they should be able to engage with staff and make the most change possible. Lastly, I think that the most important thing for the Vice President Education actually is from the start of the student experience. So when students come to Glasgow Uni, the first lecture they have an induction from the Vice President Education, an introduction about the SRC, showing what the SRC does, and I think it's important to engage these students from the offset.
Okay, good stuff. And Salim Sim again, why do you think it's important?
Well, literally, Kate said a lot, and yeah, what I need to add is Vice President Education play an effective role, as she said, in representing students' interest on some relevant university committees, and also by providing the necessary materials and statistics for the university decision makers. So it's very important.
Okay, and just as a general question, what will you do to make sure the SRC remains involved and relevant within the university when they make decisions about education policy?
Okay, so well, SRC members usually are sit in different university committees, and such as Deans of Graduate Studies, which play an effective role in postgraduate issues, solving some of issues, and then also providing an accurate feedback about the student certifications and suggestions, which would help through, of course, the SRC, which help to improve and fine-tune some of the university on education policies.
So you believe it needs some fine-tuning?
Yeah.
Okay, and Sim again to you.
In terms of how to make it, how the SRC can be more involved, I think that university needs to consult with Scottish Government and in the university in its responses to policy, for example, the HE Governance Bill or feedback policy. In order to remain relevant, I really think that students should be consulted. We should hold consultations inside and outside of the SRC within the university to engage with what these students want and ensure that these decisions are the right decisions for students. And lastly, I think that we must make sure that we represent all students at the university. We have such a diverse student body, and I think it's important that we contact different groups of students in the way we communicate with them.
Okay, so next one's a bit of a controversial one. Do you think it should be mandatory for all subject areas to record lectures and make those recordings available to all students, regardless of their personal or academic circumstances? And if so, what would you do to make that happen?
So lecture recording policy comes up every year, and I think that the problem is, I know this through sitting on lots of staff committees, staff don't like the fact that we should be able to record lectures because they think that students won't go to lectures if they can access it online. The problem is staff just don't understand, and we need to advertise it as the SRC as a support mechanism for the students that aren't able to attend these lectures due to personal situations and circumstances. So in terms of staff, we need to advertise it as a support mechanism, and for students I really think that we should work with them and encourage them to communicate with the staff members in order for them to feel like they can ask for recordings or they can ask for lecture or seminar notes after the lecture if they've not been able to attend.
Do you believe then they should only be made available on request?
No, not necessarily. I think it very much depends on the circumstances. I think it should be lecture recording happens in many universities, and I think especially for the big lectures, the big seminars, with the big numbers of students, they should be recorded, definitely.
Okay, and Salim again.
Yeah, I had that's very interesting question. I had working as academic lecturer before I got the PhD scholarship. I mostly disagree with recording lectures and make it applicable to everyone who want to download it, especially for the first year students, because we will lose the connection between we lose the connection with the student, and especially the face-to-face interaction. And also, most of the students will depend only on these records, and they will have less reading, and that's what we don't want to happen. And because of the students come from different backgrounds, so they have different level of educations, and that will create a lot of problems and might raise a lot of questions. And that time, the student will not have any solution for them. And one last point I want to emphasize, which is there is no any guarantee after using this technique, this teaching method, for a couple of years, that the tutor will give a proper lecture like what they are doing just right now.
So that's a no.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is just for you, Kate. How will you look to improve feedback within subjects?
Okay, so this is a big point in my manifesto at the moment. I think there's two ways that I want to improve feedback. One way is through making an online Moodle portal for every student that is accessible throughout their degree, which is just specifically for feedback. I think this would make it much more accessible, as when students actually need the feedback and want to refer to the feedback that they get, it needs to be in a place that they can get it. They often get it through email or through Moodle, through Turnitin, through hard copies, and there is no place for students to look back at it and use it constructively. The second way I really think that we could look at how the university uses feedback and look at the best practices of feedback. I think that by holding big groups of
just wrap up, sorry.
Class rep meetings and conferences, I think that we need to show class reps what goes on and how to improve their feedback across colleges.
Okay, thanks very much. Now, Salim, this is another one from your manifesto. How do you intend to strengthen the link between students and the SRC?
Well, by establishing a different way of communication between the student or between the class representative and the SRC, not only relying on the class representative only. So, such as give an extensive training for class reps and how to escalate different problems to the proper or to the relevant SRC members, and also to create a drop-in session, which is very important for every week, that the student can discuss we can discuss their problems individually. And also, most of the postgraduate, as I'm one of them, we have a very poor representation and less engagement with SRC. We might not, or some of them might not have an idea about what's SRC. So what we need is to focus more on SRC role and the explanation of what is SRC during the induction day.
Okay, good stuff. So, Kate, you have the idea of a volunteer student support network. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Okay, so this is basically a problem that came to me through the advisory office in the arts. And a lot of students feel really disengaged or they feel isolated, and this can be a reason that they may drop out. So one way I think that we can solve this problem is by recruiting a student network, a bit like how we recruit freshers helpers, who have students who have an excellent understanding of Glasgow, the city of Glasgow, the student life that it has to offer, so that when these students come to the support staff, they can be directed to another student who can take them to say, a taster session for a society, can show them, different things to do in the city, show them the city centre if they've never seen it before, if they're international students, say, or show them the services that the SRC provides, different ways of getting involved with, representation, or things like GUST, really, anything, just to kind of show them what Glasgow University has to offer.
Okay, cool. And Salim, your idea you mentioned in your manifesto is for workshops and conferences within the university? Could you expand on
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So this part has this question has two parts actually. The first one dealing with conferences. Conferences gives a very good opportunity for the student to share ideas and expertise across. I prefer within a university conference. So to share different ideas and expertise across different schools, and also to establish a new collaboration between them. On the top of that, they will sharing different conference experience and network within a friendly, informal environment. I want to focus on that point. And the second thing is the workshop, because most of the students in the University of Glasgow are international, so they have some issues with the basic skills like writing and IT skills, which might not be covered during their studies. So I'm focusing on providing an extra help for organizing some workshops that deal especially for academic writing for the international student, and some IT skills like programming using MATLAB, which, yeah.
Okay.
So,
that's great. Thanks very much. So thank you to Kate and Salim. All the best for your campaign. Thank you for your answers. Okay. Next up, we have the candidates for VP Student Activities. So we have Mary Harris, Farhan Riaz Ahmed, and Galina Misheva. Okay, so to just start off again, like the general importance of the role. Why is it, do you think, something particularly important that if you decided to run for? If we could just start with you, Mary.
I think Vice President of Student Activities is a vital role in the university environment. Naturally, I believe that academia is a big part of university life, but obviously I think there's more to student life than academia, and I think that is activities. Glasgow has usually done really well in terms of student feedback and satisfaction, and I think the main reason for that is because of the activities we have on offer. We have over 286 clubs at the university, and I think that's one of the highest club rates across the country in terms of student engagement. So I think this role in Vice President needs to be there to help to control those clubs. We also have a huge amount of volunteering opportunities at the university, and there's something over about 1,000 applications last year. So yeah, I do think the role is very vital, and I think it should also be said, though, that although I've said these things are important for that role, it's a new role. It's only 3 years old, and what we say now, is maybe just applicable for this year, but it's a really exciting role that is definitely going to expand in the future.
Okay, good stuff. Galina.
Hi. Well, I think the importance of VP student activities, it's actually, as Mary said, a really vital role, because I feel like it gives students an opportunity to tap into the resources and the resources and all the chances that they get from being within this university. Extracurricular activities are important, and the role of VP activities should foster students' engagement and participation. Jantari Masalute was the previous VP activities, and she did a great job with that, so I would like to build on what she did.
Okay, well, why do you think you'd be a good fit for it personally?
I think I'd be a good fit for a VP activities because I've done events management for a very long time, and events management is at the heart of VP activities. I've done events with Subsidiary Radio, club nights and charity events, and I feel like I can contribute with the experience that I have so that other people can get that experience.
Okay, cool. And Farhan, just again, what is it about the role that appeals to you?
Yeah, so students have a massive voice on campus, so the role of VP activity is a great opportunity to be able to help students vocalize their needs and make a difference on campus. And student activities are a huge part of Glasgow Uni and something that most of the students are engaged in, from clubs and societies, volunteering, drag, student media. So it is essential that the Vice President of Student Activities is able to help support those students and facilitate everything that goes on to make student activities successful. So having a Vice President who can steer the direction of activities department based on what they have experienced and what they feel needs to be improved will increase student engagement and will benefit students from extracurricular activities.
Just in general, what is it do you think that each of you would be able to do to promote student experience that you don't think the others would? What do you think you focus on that people are maybe the rest are probably lacking in their manifestos? Just
Yeah, so to promote activities of student societies on campus, basically the main area where societies can market themselves is Freshers Week and Refreshers Week. So I would like provide them with the resources where they can inform students about the various events they have throughout the year, and one place which they should mainly focus is posters, because the main if you have posters, like, they grab attention of students like on campus. So if you have like posters around the campus in mainly those areas where students go like every day, like unions or the Fraser building, so that will help them to promote their societies. And as I had mentioned in my manifesto, that I want to enforce the idea of a community within society. So like different societies can collaborate together to have joint events.
Mary, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, so as I said before, obviously clubs and societies are actually doing a great job promoting themselves already, and the SRC sadly are not doing enough to be with them in that endeavour. There's a couple of things I think I would do in terms of promotion with the clubs and societies. One quote I got given recently that actually upset me from a president of a society, and they said, what does the SRC actually do to make it worthwhile for societies to affiliate with us? And I thought it's quite sad that was a quote that came from society. So my main things with that is obviously the charities and societies calendar has been done in the past 2 years ago with Juntari, and it hasn't been continued this year. I think it's a good idea in basics, but I think it could definitely be improved on. One way I'd do that is a newsletter for different events going on a monthly period. Secondly, I'd also do a separate Facebook page. SRC Facebook page is a bit overwhelming to students. It's not very good for engagement, and it's very evident in terms of likes and retweets. So I'd do that. And also, one thing that I've found out recently that scared me was that clubs and societies can actually advertise in the library. There's a specific desk there for any clubs and societies to promote their club and society, and it's never been utilised. So I really want to make sure that any club and society that is affiliated with us can use that desk.
Okay. And Galina, so you're saying you're quite involved in Subcity. Just what do you think your experience from that, is in terms of how, your role, how you'd like to promote that to students, in similar experiences?
Yeah, well, we have quite a variety of roles within Subcity. I'm on the events team, so I get to be the person who puts up parties and gets to promote the parties. I really think that my experience could actually benefit the SRC, because I know how to promote something regardless of whether it is an organisation or a business. And I would treat the SRC as a business, because that's the only way to promote it. In my manifesto, I said I was going to make an online calendar. Could also be a printed version of it that would host, that would have on it all the events that the different societies and club are going to do throughout the year. Of course, they're not going to have their full schedule by September, so that's why it's going to be updated constantly. But it's mainly the idea of being able to access a society or a club and test it out just one click away from you, and being able to go everywhere and meet new people and improve your skills.
Okay. So just to all of you as well, what would you do to make the SRC more transparent? What do you in particular,
Yeah, sure. So as I said, I do think the SRC is a fantastic student body. I've been involved for 2 years. And it does make me sad that people think almost, not that we're a clique, but that we don't expand out with just the people that are involved in it. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with SRC, so I actually want to expand, and again, promotion is a big thing. There's 3 things I said there. It's involvement, promotion, and cross-campus relations. Involvement, I want to start the RAG committee. Well, the RAG committee's already been a thing, but I want to continue that, keep the Vice President of Student Activities on it, and my current position, Charities, Clubs and Societies Officer on it, but then open it up to students and get them engaged and get them working with the SRC.
Okay, so the issue of the SRC being not transparent enough isn't something that particularly worries you?
I think it does worry me, because I obviously think that engagement with the SRC and people wanting to be involved. You don't think it's too much of an issue at the current reason? No, I do think it's an issue, evident by election turnout and people that are actually running for positions. I do, definitely. Okay. But it just needs to be promoted better and done better.
Okay, and same again. In terms of SRC transparency, where do you stand?
All right. So I believe that it has to be more transparent than it is right now. So for example, like most of the students don't know what services SRC provides. They just know it's like a building on campus, and they're not engaged with it. So one thing I would like is like students to receive students' input, so that we can act upon that. And secondly, I would like for example, when they have the council meetings, so they can actually utilize student media like Gust and have like live stream those meetings or record them and upload them on the website, so students can have access to them and know what's actually going on. And one more thing was that the minutes of the meetings, they should be like available on the SRC website, and if elected, like I would be more than happy to discuss the matters with students.
Okay.
Let's discuss in the meeting.
And just say again.
I'm going to give an example with Liam King's Burn the Beige campaign that he did last year when he was running for president, because I think the main thing that campaign showed was that anyone who wants to can be a part of the SRC. It's not a lie that SRC elections sometimes, well, often have become a sort of a popularity contest, and I think it's high time that practice changed. So there needs to be more accountability, and students of the University of Glasgow need to know that their vote actually counts, because the SRC is their main representative and they should be the leading force behind it. They need to know that they can go to the SRC, that the SRC should be the first instance they can go to whenever they have a problem, whenever they need assistance, or whenever they just want to talk to someone because they feel lost.
So kind of saying similar things there.
It does need to be more transparent, in a short answer to your question.
Right.
A lot more transparent than it is now.
In what particular ways?
Through accountability and ensuring that everyone is accountable. Your idea was actually really good with like live streaming the meetings.
Yeah. I mean, student bodies, it's kind of become a thing. The SRC, almost this year, if you look at GUSA's involvement and their collaboration effort, it just, raised impact and everyone noticed what was going on. SRC really, sadly this year, hasn't really had any cross-campus relations and dual events with anyone. And something like that would definitely increase get rid of this stigma that the SRC doesn't get involved with anyone.
Making sure students know who's
related
to them. Okay, good stuff. So Farhan, if you're elected, what were your plans for RAG Week that you set up?
Right, so from the start of my first year, I've always been involved with like bake sales for Macmillan, Cancer Research and York Hill. So RAG is something I truly believe like I can give my full support to. So one of the main aim I have is to have fundraising with other campuses like Strathclyde and Caledonian, so that there's a sense of competition and students actually get engaged with RAG, and like there's a competition between universities like who raises more money for charities. So that's my first aim. And second thing is like I want all the 4 student bodies to come together and have events like color runs and climbing expeditions, so that they can at least like raise money and utilize resources of GUSA's Starfish program for people suffering from mental health issues. Yeah, so my main aim is right now to like have a cross campus
kind of expand it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Galina, you promised to make an extracurricular activities calendar and a database for charities looking for volunteers, as you kind of mentioned. Do you think, for you, is that the most effective way of getting students involved in activities and charities?
Yes, I feel like it's the most effective ways to get students involved in activities and charities, precisely because one of the big problems whenever you want to be involved with someone, with an organisation and volunteer with it, is the fact that it's not accessible. It's not easily accessible. You're the person that needs to search for it, and you're the person that needs to find all the available information. Hence, I'm proposing a database which will have everything comprised. So the SRC are running a lot of great projects this year. The Befriend an Elder, is that an elder? Yeah. The people with the with Alzheimer's disease, a lot of other campaigns. What we should have is all charities that are looking for volunteers being grouped under one category, so that you can pick and choose.
Cool, good stuff. And Mary, I've heard this coming up recently. How would you look to enhance the university experience for home students?
Everyone's talking about this, but I have 2 main points. My first is my points are representation and the home student network. Representation: if a home student has an issue regarding anything to do with them being a home student, there's nothing for them in the SRC. It's completely lacking, and although we have a couple of members that are home students on the council, they're not represented. That's 5,000 home students that are not represented. That's 20% of the student population. I would campaign to potentially include a position that would represent them. My second point is the home student network. The home student network is a must, very needed on campus right now, and it's very evident that it has been needed by the amount of talk it's had recently. I would say though that I would try and change how it actually and have more appropriate events for students. Obviously home students are going to struggle to come into campus, and I want to make sure that the Home Student Network has events that are appropriate for them during the day as well. I do just want to say I'm not a home student myself, so I'm not going to pretend that I have these issues when I don't. But I want to speak to people that are home students, and I have spoken to quite a few. And obviously, the main concerns are, lockers, microwaves is a huge point. Why on earth would you come onto campus, stay there, and not have a microwave?
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you very much for your points, guys, and good luck for your campaigns. Next up, we have the candidates for Vice President Student Support, Erin Lewis and Ian French. So I'm just going to drop you right in at the deep end. How would you improve diversity amongst welfare officers on campus?
Well, I think when you talk about diversity in terms of the SRC, that's speaking to a kind of wider issue with visibility. So I think that can start from the bottom up with our academic and welfare officers, and making sure that they're engaging with students in all the possible methods, really, whether that's through online forums and stuff or through society involvement. I think that the campaign spending limits that we've introduced recently, long time coming, will go a long way to sort of reduce stigma about running and getting involved, and hopefully get some more non-traditional students involved as well. And engagement with international students as well is a big deal at the minute. We want everyone to know that the SRC is for them as well, and that the positions are for them too.
And Ian, your reaction to that?
Yeah, I would agree with what Erin said. I think much better publicising of the elections is key, and better publicising of the benefits of being on council. Getting out there and talking to international students, LGBT students, disabled students, like students that aren't well represented on council, and encouraging them to run and get involved, and then talking to them about why they might not have run in the past.
Right. To
try and fix the issues instead of just getting more people on council, actually getting to the root of what the problems are.
Okay. Just in terms of, I know it comes up quite often, is the issue of counselling and psychological services. What ideas do you have, if any, to kind of improve that and access to it and so on?
Well, year in, year out, we say that we're going to try and increase funding for CAPS, which obviously I will absolutely push to do, but I also think there are some other kind of stopgap or kind of early intervention measures we can be putting in place. So one of these is I want to work with CAPS on their peer support programme, which has been launched in the vet school just now, and we're trying to kind of overlap a little bit with our academic reps to get them rolling those programmes out to individual schools. So that would be a big part of what I'd want to do, as well as some kind of basic self-care and mental well-being information being distributed, especially to the new intake of students, but being made widely available to all students, especially online.
Okay, so then there's kind of a well-regarded, kind of perspective that the counselling and psychological services isn't really funded enough, but also at the same time that enough people don't seem to know about it, which seems to cause more of a strain. What for you would be kind of the, what would take precedence there?
I think, yes, kind of stopgap measures to making sure there've been different methods proposed, like ticketing systems and things, to make sure that students' wait times, which can also add to psychological issues and be more of a stress in and of themselves. So I'd sort of be looking into tackle that. It's actually not a question I was expecting, less in uptake of CAPS. I'd have to have maybe a wee think about that.
Okay. And Ian,
we're just trying to improve CAPS. They've recently been given a grant to update their computer system and build a computer system, so I think supporting the counselling service through that and making sure that it's all to the benefit of the student, and then once that's all in place, making sure that the students know about it, know how they can access it and why they can access it, and if there are a big waiting time, then what they can do in the meantime to help support them. That's why the SRC are here, that's why the advice centre are there, so just knowing what else can be put in place for people that are on long.
Right,
waiting
kind of more
lists.
coping strategies
Yeah.
in the meantime.
If I can just jump in on the end of that, I think that signposting services is a big issue. I think we should be
Yeah,
making more of our
definitely.
key points of contact with students, actual people, so that being freshers, helpers, board members of all student bodies, it should be a cross-campus effort. They should be well equipped and kind of have been given inductions into the support services we offer and what CAPS can offer as well, so that they're engaging with students directly in that way as well.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, realistically then, do you think that's kind of what do you think is the most you could be achieving that, within the year?
Signposting, as
Yeah.
Erin said, just letting people know it's there, letting people know what other services are there in the meantime if they're on the wait list. So
Yeah.
Okay. That's another thing that came up at the start of the year about the access to disabled students during Freshers Week and weeks and things. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that there's been some excellent work in the SRC regarding involvement of non-traditional students, particularly disabled students. I think that needs to continue and be built upon with a dedicated Freshers Helper team. That's an idea that's come up through a couple of the welfare officers. I think just the fact of it existing would show that we are prioritising non-traditional students. We are prioritising daytime events, accessible events. And I would also say that sort of supporting and growing the new disabled students network that's just been set up, probably pre-arrival for students who are coming into uni in the new intake, would be really good for kind of peer support, bonding, that kind of thing.
Okay. And
well, I know that during this year's Freshers Week, the Disability Equality Students Officer Lauren ran like a buddy scheme and a befriending scheme, so that she would meet students before events and go with them. So I think building on that, and as Erin said, building with the Disabled Students Network and making sure all the events are accessible at accessible times, and that for the big events there's quiet spaces so they can have accessibility breaks, and if they need to have a caterer or a befriender with them, that they're allowed to come along for free to the event, and just make it easiest for them to come along.
Okay. Just before we get to the specific questions, what if I had to summarise why people should vote for you rather than the other, sort of pit you against each other? What would your kind of essential reasons be for that?
Oh, you don't know what you've done. We're actually, we're pals.
Yeah.
I don't actually even want to get into this.
Each other.
I don't know skill-wise. I mean, we come from quite different angles with it, I suppose. My own personal brand would be coming from the kind of activist, getting stuff done now, kind of humanitarian perspective. I suppose that's something that I can offer.
Yeah, I think being on council as a welfare officer this year, I've maybe got the experience of working with closely with the student support this year, so maybe that could be something.
And no major overlap in focus, no major difference in focus or anything?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. It's good to hear. So Erin, how would you look to improve student support at the other University of Glasgow campuses?
I think it's still, to me, it seems like it's still quite in early stages. I think it's a lot of consultation that needs to be done and actually going out and engaging with students and finding out what their support needs, because for a lot of them, so far flung, and then also your online students, their support needs are completely different to the ones that are up here or on Gilmore Hill. So I think engagement, first and foremost with, for example, the Dumfries rep, just kind of working and building on that relationship, but also going out and engaging with your average student as well. And I think I hope we could be doing more online probably. I think the uni's website itself could be signposting support services a lot better, so I think that would go a long way to improving the situation for students further afield.
Okay. And Ian, you mentioned this in your manifesto. How do you plan to improve council training for the SRC?
It's something that came up this year, just at the start of the year. Council training comes after Freshers Week, after we've been on council for 4 months, I think. So I think that bringing it in earlier, during the summer, I think it's a role for the sabbatical officers to train, the VPSS to train the welfare officers, individually role focused, and then bring them all together and let them know what they can do, who they speak to, any questions they have, answer them, and then come together and have a full council training after the autumn elections.
Okay, good stuff. Erin, you say in your manifesto about eliminating sexual violence. Obviously, you see this as a big problem on campus, so how do you intend to tackle it?
Well, I think there's currently kind of two speeds going on, because we've got the kind of grassroots campaign like Let's Talk, which is something I've been involved in from the offset. So I'd be looking to kind of, I don't want to take student-led projects like that away from the kind of original campaign momentum that started them. So I'd like to have more kind of a mechanism in place to support student-led initiatives like that. So on the one hand, I would like to see Let's Talk support and like grow and develop, but then in the long term, I obviously want to push for change at the university level, and would use this position to do that, to build on the excellent work that's already been begun in that respect. The main strands for me for prevention would be training. Training is a big focus. We need to be looking into consent training, bystander intervention training, personal safety training. Also, reporting procedures have a lot of holes to be filled.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you. And Ian, finally, how should the SRC and the university encourage engagement in the planning of the campus redevelopment?
Well, I think that we need to get out there and ask, like, just your average student their opinion on the new plans and new campus, because like I know that we've, as council, we got a presentation about the new campus, we've got all this information, but a couple of my friends, they have no idea what's going on. So I think getting out there into the library, the Fraser building, with like pop-up like new campuses almost, and be like, what do you think of this? Just ask them quick answers so they can like answer on the go. And having more like galleries like they have in the Wilson building right now, just to show what they're doing, what their plans are and their reasoning behind it. And then getting out to like the big societies, asking their opinion, like asking them to spread the word. Just getting out there and asking your average student.
All right, okay. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our candidates for SRC presidents. That's Una Marie Dara, Amir Ibrahim, and Ellen Earl Morton. Okay, so again, just going to pit you straight against each other. What particular experience do you have that means people should vote for you for president?
Well, I'm a current Vice President at the SRC. I'm currently Vice President of Student Activities at the SRC. I've had 2 years' experience on council. My role this year, obviously, as a member of the executive, has largely been focused around events management, publicity of the organisation, and budgeting, around events and so forth. I've also, challenged the university on a number of issues, such as room bookings and charges that hospitality, incur to societies. And I've line managed, general reps and first year reps, and the current Charities, Clubs and Societies officer on council.
Okay.
I'm currently on the leadership board of the Marxist Student Federation, which is a big organisation which it sort of organises and encompasses societies all around the UK. So I'm used to sort of communicating between different groups all based around the UK, and organisation and just leadership that I got there. I'm also the treasurer of the Marxist Society, so I'm used to public speaking, I'm used to doing talks, and I'm really involved in politics both in and off campus. So I've got a good sense of the wider political situation. I'm used to engaging with the sort of real world issues that affect students, like especially housing, employment, fees and cuts. So I'm used to sort of being active in politics in that sort of way.
Okay, go.
In my year as Vice President Student Support, I've been an effective voice on campus. I'm a strong candidate because I understand how the SRC works, where we are going wrong and how we can improve on that. This year I've successfully lobbied for there to be condoms free of charge at the reception areas and halls. I've implemented the Safe Taxi scheme to ensure that if students are stuck on a night out without money, they can get a safe way home. I've launched the previously mentioned Disabled Student Network to give those students more voice in a unique social space as well. I've achieved things this year that support current students, and I will continue with that if I'm elected. I want to ensure the current student needs aren't forgotten in the move to this massive redevelopment of campus.
Okay. So speaking of the redevelopment of campus, one of the roles of the SRC president is making sure that university doesn't ignore the voices of the students. So with that in mind, how do you wish to communicate with the university about the campus redevelopment, and realistically, what do you hope to achieve?
Well, something that I've put in my manifesto is that I would like to see a student-led committee, a campus development committee, that will meet throughout the year and consult the wider student population on issues, and also take feedback from what students actually want to see in the newly developed campus. I think this will kind of offer a consistent form of feedback throughout the year. It will also give the committee the opportunity to speak to individual college and subject areas to find out what individual schools feel, students of individual schools feel that they would like to see in the new campus based on their course of study. I think also creating an online facility, a forum that is updated throughout the year when development plans are made, so that students can offer feedback to the university, and this would be reviewed by estates and buildings and architects and other individuals that are involved with the project.
Okay, cool. And Ellen?
I think the SRC really needs to get better at being more democratic and being more open for students' views. So for the redevelopment, there were consultations which I had no idea about. Asked my friends, no one didn't know they were going on. So I think the SRC really needs to work on becoming more open, having more consultations with students that are advertised, making it an SRC for the students. What do they think? What do they want? And also communicating the strategy to the students and getting ideas from students, having an SRC that is really representative of the whole student body, and not a sort of small closed away group, but something that everyone's involved with and everyone knows about.
Okay, cool. And Marie?
I'd agree. We need to be more open, and we need to be trying to hit all students with the information. This year I've co-led a work stream on student experience for the College of Arts Redevelopment. So through that I've held focus groups, I've consulted with students, and the feedback from that has been written up, and that's going to go into a survey which will be sent to all of the College of Arts students so that we can get their feedback, and for them to then us to take it back to the project development board and be like, this is what students want, this is what they need, this is what we like about current campus, this is what we think the new one should look like. And I think we need to be continuing to inform students on what's happening and the changes that are going to happen on campus to keep them all informed.
Okay. So generally speaking, I think this is a question you probably all have a different perspective on. What problems do you see within the SRC currently that you'd like to address? What are the major issues you'd like to tackle?
I think transparency is definitely something that's been touched upon throughout, and it's something that has to improve. And along with that, to have a more transparent SRC, you have to increase visibility on campus, both amongst council members and also interaction of students, to the organisation. I think relevance of the SRC to the wider student population, is something that has to continue to be worked upon, ensuring that services that the SRC currently offers are promoted to the wider student population. Certainly students, when they face, housing, employment or academic issues, do not always know where to go. Ensuring that, services such as the Advice Centre and signposting, for contact details of current members of council are constantly updated throughout the year, and hosting, drop-in sessions, and also promoting the services that the SRC currently offers around campus as well via the other student bodies.
Okay. And Ellen, what are the major problems with the SRC for you?
I think for me and for a lot of students, the problem is that SRC is quite divorced from students' issues and is quite cut off from student activism in general. I think the SRC could be a really strong voice against fees. The fact that it doesn't openly stand for free education, I think is ridiculous. I think it could be a strong voice campaigning for free education for everyone, no matter where they're from or what their background is. It could be a strong voice against cuts in education. FE colleges are seeing a lot of cuts, and that's a way in which a lot of students from working class and lower income backgrounds come into our university, and I think we have a duty to protect that. Bad housing is something that a lot of students face, both in privately rented sector and in halls, where the conditions are appalling, really. And I think I would work with the uni to change the policy towards halls and fight for fairer rents and better conditions. Also, the SRC bus drivers are on self-employed contracts, which are basically 0 hours contracts. I think it's a bit of a disgrace at the heart of the SRC. We have this really exploitative work going on. So overall, I think the SRC needs to be better reflecting issues that students are actually facing in the wider world.
Okay. Una Marie, just as a currently serving member of the board, how do you react to that?
No, I agree. To touch on Amir's point briefly before I move on, it was about being visible. We have actually we're doing some work on visual identity and some rebranding in the SRC, because when you see a poster for like International Women's Week, it's completely different from the stuff we do for, say, Welfare Week. So what we're going to have is this consistent branding. So when you see an SRC poster, you know, that's what that's for. But going back to what Ellen has said as well, we're not relevant enough on campus. We do lack a campaigning force, and if I'm elected, one of the things I want to do is establish a campaigns committee, so that the exec will sit on that, council members, but also clubs and societies and students that want to get involved and they want to sort of lead the SRC will have a chance to come to this forum and come to this committee and decide with everyone there where the focus should be for the year and what campaigns we should do. And I think if we do that, we'll have a more relevant place on campus, and we can also engage more students as well that way.
Okay. So there's a lot of agreement. Where, if anywhere, do you see yourselves diverging as candidates, in terms of focus or otherwise?
As I say, I think obviously my fellow candidates have made very, very relevant points today. I think from my perspective, you know, I do genuinely want to see a more transparent and visible SRC, and one that, you know, is largely the issues that we promote, you know, are taken seriously by the wider student population, and also, you know, views, you know, that are representative of the wider student population, ensure that there is interaction throughout the year, and ensuring the SRC has a strong voice on campus, to the university, and on a national level is something that I largely want to improve.
Okay, and yourself?
I think I diverge in that. I believe the SRC should be far more political than it already is, should stand firm against fees and for better housing and against bad work contracts, and should be out there as a political force representing the views of the students, and not just sort of as an advice centre to help people here and there, but something that really all the students can come to, can get their views, and can be a force nationally and in Glasgow and fighting for students' rights.
Okay, let me just return to you briefly, Amir. Like, kind of, what would your response be to that in terms of, you know, politicising the SRC more rather than just making them more visible?
Political activism is something that's certainly very relevant, and if you look, you know, and through history, you know, you can see certainly a campaigning force from universities all over the country. I think that representing current views, you know, that are reflective, you know, of political changes and social policy issues that take place in society is something that the SRC should support and promote, ensuring that there is obviously a level of communication whereby the SRC can keep up to date with clubs and societies and student groups to represent their views to the wider national audience and the student population. Okay.
And Una Marie, where primarily do you think you diverge from your fellow candidates?
I think I differ somewhat, because although I'm not the only person who's been on the exec, I think I've got a list of achievements that have actually affected students, and that we can see that it's good that they've been implemented. I sit on a number of committees at the minute, including all of the equality and diversity groups, and I've been a strong voice on those for students, and I think if elected I will continue to be a strong voice that doesn't shy away from senior management, knows how to hold them accountable, and knows how to ask the right questions and to get a response from them, which I think is important. I think that's where I differ.
Okay, cool. So just to go into some more specific questions, so Amir, what kind of increased support for home students would you like to see at the university?
Well, currently the University of Glasgow is an estimated, 40% home student population. This also, encompasses, a broad range of demographics from, students that have just left school to mature students and parents and so forth. I think that more representation is definitely needed across the board. One thing that came out of the local student orientation event during Freshers Week last year was that a lot of students would like to see more events throughout the year for home students, between the unions, the SRC and also GUSA. I think that also looking at students who are living at home as well, who perhaps face financial hardships, there could be scope there to work with student bodies like GUSA to see if there can be lobbying efforts to have subsidised gym membership and so forth to help integrate the home student population. It's statistically correct that home students as a demographic have a higher dropout rate. I think ensuring that retention is something that continues to be developed and promoted will largely, help the home student population and the wider campus,
Okay, cool. So, Ellen, I think this is your major point, is that you want to make sure the SRC has greater political force. What would you do in order to make sure it'd be able to intervene in matters such as tuition fee changes, for example?
Well, firstly, I would open up the SRC and have far more consultation, so you've got that student body right behind you. And also use the position that the President has on the court and on the Senate to make it a voice for students and to be vocal in implementing real and lasting change. I would also link up with other parts of the student movement, the anti-fees movement, anti-cuts movement, especially in fighting for free education for all, because as students I think that's really important that we support free education no matter where you come from. I would also look to link up with other groups and charities, perhaps Shelter and people like this, to fight for overpriced housing, and really poor quality housing is something that we as students have to suffer from quite a lot. Sort of overall, I think, I would make the SRC a political council and a fighting council that intervenes in the issues that matter to us and fights to change society for the better. And for our rights as students.
Yeah. So do you kind of see that being like an organisation, politicalised SRC, that would work with or against the university?
Depending on what, hopefully on things, but if it comes to things like tuition fees, it could work as the students together. If the university group is deciding to stand against what students want, I think the SRC should and could stand up and say, look, we are the students, this is what we want, you need to listen to our voice because this is our university.
Okay, thanks very much. Una Marie, so postgraduate involvement has been a long-term problem at the university. How are you going to solve it?
It has been a problem, and it's an issue that comes up every year, and so I think we need to keep working on it. I don't think we should give up on it just because last year it was like, oh, we didn't really get that. And one of the things I tried again this year was to relaunch the PG buddy system, sort of during postgraduate welcome fortnight, but it didn't really take off. So I think one of the things for next year will be to work with the next VPSS and the postgrad reps to make sure that we change that and make it a model that works for students. One thing, I did speak to the PG reps and they said that it was quite hard if you were quite new to the university, didn't really know that much about your course, that a more defined job description and a better handover would help them engage with their constituencies more, they felt. So I think I've been working at the minute on the handover processes, and I think if we can get those sort of fixed and a good model for all council members to use, then I think that'll make more effective reps which are engaging more with their constituencies across the board.
Okay, so in general, just so Ellen, I don't believe you have a great deal of SRC experience, and obviously Una Marie and Mir, you do. How do you think this affects each of your candidacies in different ways?
I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I've not been sitting in the SRC for years and years and years. I'm brand new, I'm fresh, I'm involved in student activism, and I understand why a lot of people are put off from the SRC, and I've still got quite a lot of experience in organisational roles, so I think I can bring that and bring the reasons why people are put off from the SRC and bring to it a new freshness and make it into a fighting force that really is listening to all students, especially ones who have not been engaged with the SRC before.
Okay.
Again, I think my experience on the SRC over the last couple of years has given me an understanding of the day-to-day work of the organisation from a broad perspective, from our fellow exec members to the wider council. I think continuing obviously to promote the services and initiatives and activities that we promote on an annual basis should be something that continues to be developed, and also working on areas that can still be developed, such as further representation for home students, postgraduate students, and areas that we're currently lacking on.
Okay, and Marie.
Well, there are current committees that VPSS sits on, that the President sits on, as well as a lot of other ones. So I think the link from one job to the other is not that far apart. And I think my experience as a council member and as someone who sees the SRC from the inside, but also knows that we need to be more of an active force on campus. I know how we need to change, and I think I'm the right candidate with the experience to make sure that we do change and we do become a more active SRC this year.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Amir, Ellen and Una Marie.
Thanks.
And so that concludes this evening's debate. Thank you to all the candidates for participating tonight. If you'd like to find out more about the candidates, please visit their social media campaigns for their full manifestos. Votes can be placed online via My Campus, and the polling will open at 9 a.m. on the 2nd of March and closes at 5 p.m. on the 3rd of March. I've been Conor McNeil, and thank you for watching GUST's live SRC Sabbatical Candidate Debate. Good night.